is another little tool to help you with transformations of parent functions. So if you have something, if you see a function and you see a number is multiplied to the front of the function. So a number in front means that it's going to be a vertical stretch or a vertical shrink. So if the number is greater than 1, the number in front is greater than 1, it's a vertical stretch. So for example, if you see 7 times the absolute value of x, it's a vertical stretch by 7. If the number is between 0 and 1, then it's a vertical shrink. So for example, I did 1 over 7x squared times x squared. This is a vertical shrink by a seventh. So again, just for graphical purposes, if you have a stretch, it's going to make the graph narrower. Okay, so it's very narrow versus a shrink, it's going to be very wide. Okay, so that's the absolute value example, or we could even have a parabola example. Okay, so just to kind of pairing that together with graph and equations. Now, if we have f of x minus h, there is a number inside, or we can just say it's with the x. It could be in the parentheses like this, or an absolute value. Then what that means is when you see something like this, it's either moving left or right. It's a horizontal translation. So if you see a positive in the inside, so we see a plus 3, it is actually moving to the left 3. So if you think about that, so just to add a little more, why is that? Well, notice that this is x minus h. If we put a minus 3, a minus minus becomes a positive 3, right? So that's why the left is actually a positive 3 on the inside. So see a positive with the x, that means it's left. Then if you see a negative in the inside, then it actually moves to the right. So this moves right 5 units. Again, and when it's inside, it's going to be opposite. So let's look at f of x plus k. It's a number at the end. It just means it's going to move up or down. This is our vertical transformations or translations. Adding at the end. So if we have a plus 5 outside, then it's going to move the entire function up 5 units. Every point is moving up 5 units. When you subtract at the end, then it's going to move down 2 units. So absolute value of x is minus 2 is down 2. Now, if you see a negative in front of the entire function, what that means is it's a reflection in the x-axis. So if you see a negative in front of the absolute value of x or a negative in front of the x squared, then it's going to be reflected. So parent graphs, you also need to know, how do you graph these parent functions? So the parent function of y equals x, remember that really is y equals mx plus b. Our y-intercept in this case is 0. There is no number in the front, so that means that the slope is just 1 over 1. So that means it's up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, down 1, left 1, down 1, left 1, right? So showing some clear points on a graph. So that is a linear function. So this is linear. X squared, that is a quadratic, and we get a parabola. And so the pattern is it starts at 0, then we go right 1, up 1, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 5 is what we could do, and it's reflected across the y-axis here. So it's this graph here. And then again, what happens with a parent function like this is that it's always 1. So it goes right 1. So we have 1, 3, 5 is the pattern. Right 1, up 1. Right 1, up 3 from the next point you have. Up 1, right 1, up 5. So let me show you here. So from the vertex, right 1, up 1, which is what I have here. Then right 1, up 3. From here, right 1 up 3, then right 1 up 5. So very helpful, so you don't have to plug numbers in. It's really, really nice just to know the pattern. Absolute value of x. So this is absolute value. So the absolute value just means how far is that from the 0. So if you have absolute value of 3, that's 3 from the 0. Absolute value of negative 3 is still 3 from the 0 on a number line, right? So if you have 0 here, and then 3 and negative 3. So just some information of where these things come from. Okay, so the absolute value of x. So again, it starts at 0, 0 here, And then up one, right, up one, right one, up one, right one. And then on the left, up one, left one, up one, left one. So absolute value looks like a V. Okay, so absolute value looks like a V shape. So be very careful. And then the parabola is more like a U shape. So it should be rounded at the bottom here. And then the linear equation here. So hopefully this helps you out with your transformations, being able to read it. What is the transformation? Just by looking at an equation, that will help you out. And then we'll get some practice in writing equations with those transformations later on.